Good morning. Welcome to another day of training the AI with all of our responses. The more you put online, the more likely you're going to be able to create a semi-sentient facsimile of yourself that will live forever. Anyway, Jimmy's just changing computers. He's going to be back here in a second. But I wanted to go live because we said we were going to start at noon, and it's like noon 04. If you're here, please say hello in the comments. Yeah, we haven't done a show in a little while. We're still doing tons of work. A lot is happening. If you're curious about that, you can always go to the Uplift Discord. I highly recommend checking out the DAO discussion channel, where you can see kind of where the rubber is currently meeting the road. Actually, I know I put it in the team chat, but we had 2 different tech demos internally, and a Tuddle Huddle where we talked about a bunch of really cool things. Yeah, TC is awesome, right? Yeah. So yeah, Lisa, sorry, you need 2 pages. Anyway, so DAO discussion channel, highly recommended. Anytime that we're not doing shows as much, and you're wondering if we're still around or kicking around, there's lots of activity there. Even like in the Uplift Discord anyway. There's missions going on all the time. There's Uplift team going out, to a bunch of different, build and activity communities, all sorts of crazy shit. There's tons of stuff going on. Anyway, my point is, I missed Jimmy. I missed all of you people. And so we just decided to get on here real quick. Yeah, so what TC's talking about, and I wanted Jimmy in on here, but I can tell him about this later. So Andre Abell is a really good friend of ours, has been since the very early days of the Uplift Telegram channel. Like back, he was probably like first 1,000 people in there. And just a great guy. I guess I should maybe address that. Last time I was sick for like months and months. Wilbur, I'm feeling great, Lisa. I don't cough anymore. It's finally like for real fucking gone. It was like 3-4 months where I was almost passing out, having coughing fits every day. It was freaking terrible. It is genuinely like legitimately gone. So yeah, physically I'm at the point where I'm ready to start doing some crazy stuff. Mentally is I'm getting there. It's a different story. Frankly, this last year I think took a toll out of a lot of people. It definitely did to me. I'm actually going out to a 7-day silence retreat. I've never done anything like this before. That's on Sunday, so I'm going to be gone for a week. But I'm going to come back, ready for. I mean, I think like if we haven't bottomed, it's close, right? And so we've got a 2-3 year run up to the next peak, and we're ready. Like I want to work so hard this year, and really get some stuff done. TC, thanks, man. I know that's true. It's tough. Apparently, I had to get really, really sick and get forced to lay down. Now, granted, this is this next week is going to be less downtime and more. Well, you guys are all friends. I am supposed to be silent the entire time. You take a vow of silence, but we're going to be doing a bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies as well, which has changed my life in the past. This is longer and more intense than I've ever done, but I'm in much greater need. Anyway, so we were talking about top merch. Jimmy, you remember Andre Abello, right?
Yeah, I was just on his site the other day. It's quite interesting.
Mother trucker. Yeah, so I talked to him today, and basically any Uplift NFTs that you want to turn into t-shirts or a couple different things you're going to be able to do. That same is going to be true for the 128 weeks collection. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we're going to make, I told the team today, Jimmy, like we need some like really clean, Alpha Wings logos on an NFT, right? That we can give out for participation or for rewards or whatever, right? Like just for OGs in the Discord, maybe. Uplift logos or whatever, right? So look, if you own the NFT, you can make merch out of it. So the merch is going to be, I think I put the link up in the comments. It's topmerch.eth.link. And it's a thing that I'm friend Andre is launching it, and it's just getting started. And I talked to him today, and really because obviously I'm doing 1-of-1 art NFTs now with 128 weeks, and I'm going to be pushing hopefully this quarter to have it so that you can pay some wax and get a map image or an awesome in-game photo image to turn your generic land NFT into a one-of-one artwork NFT, basically, that is actually your land, right? So it's something that I'm really keen on doing, and I could see people wanting to make merch out of their builds. I think that's going to be a possibility as well. And so, like, owning that NFT will allow you to make merch out of it. But I think the next step, and this is what I talked to him about, Jimmy, like, we want, say, you get one of my goofy art NFTs. Not only do I want you to be able to make merch from it, but I want you to be able to have a page where if I want to buy, some, then I can buy it from your page and you get a cut. Right. So, like, owning that a one-of-one NFT is going to be able to, like, you'll be able to basically market it if you want to, right? Or if anybody wants to grab it, and you'll get a little slice of that, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I think personally, like, the interesting thing about NFTs is there's a variety of ways to plug this into, real world businesses, right? Like, you can have creator rights, you can have ownership rights. There's some really interesting things, I think, that are potentially possible with all of this stuff, right? Like shared ownership or individual ownership, and I think what we're looking at in the next wave, people don't really understand that digital ownership is more than just an ape, right? Like, they haven't got that yet, right? And I think once they understand what the power of digital ownership can bring you, because it's out there, it's transparent, it's on chain, right? You don't actually have to go to a lawyer and look up copyright or patented rights. It's all there.
Right. That's honestly, like, that's where I'm leaning with the goofy little art part. And honestly, one of the reasons why I'm doing it, right, is to get my hands dirty every day, to be creative every day, and to really explore the medium, right? So my in-laws, I just showed them Midjourney, and they got, like, completely obsessed in 10 seconds. It was really fun to watch. The AI image generator, for anybody that doesn't know, has their head under a rock, which is going to be literally nobody who ever watches us. So yeah, they were really excited about that, and I just, like, right off the bat, they asked me, like, why you're making NFTs out of some of this stuff or whatever. Why would anyone want to buy NFTs? So we had that entire conversation again for what felt like the 50,000th time. But, like, I'm realizing that from the art side, like, I don't know, right? I'm making this up, right? Like, there's like that whole collector mentality. Like, I don't necessarily collect. Like, I have some, but it's not really my jam, right? So I'm doing this to explore it and really understand it better. And to me, like, if I, have an awesome image, like, I'm automatically, and I haven't written this into anything with the collection, but I will probably in a blog post or something, like, when these images go out there, like, you own all of it, right? Like, anything that comes to that NFT, the writing, the image, you own it. Go have fun, because you can track that ownership back to yourself in a very real way, right? And I think, to your point, you were making it far more succinctly than I just did, but that's like the whole thing, right? You actually own it, and you don't have to ask anyone. There's no, middleman to it. It's on chain. It's easily provable, and that's it.
I mean, it's ironic to me that the missing link for real world usable NFTs might be a flippin' ape. And I say this for good reason, right? There's an event in a town near where I'm situated right now, and they have an interactive art display going on, like a completely immersive art display going on, featuring works of art by Van Gogh. And basically, you stand on the floor in the middle of Starry Night and do a bunch of other cool stuff with his artwork. Right. So once we plug things like AI into this, right? Once we plug true digital ownership into this, I mean, what happens when the metaverse is not only a place in Ethernet space, but it's also a place in real life space? What happens when metaverses and art galleries in the metaverse get replicated in the real world? Right. We're seeing some pushes towards that by some friends of ours. Actually, the first real world NFT art gallery was created in Australia, in Brisbane, by the Meta Collect team. And this is quite interesting, because basically it's NFTs that are digital, but they're displayed on the wall as real world NFTs would be. Mm-hmm. But that's, like, a far cry from, I think, they even understand where we're headed, right? And so we have this really interesting idea where we've got some of the top, global industry leaders in terms of Microsoft that are starting to play around with AI and immersive learning, right? We've got educational systems that are, teaching students not through gaming anymore, but through, AI activity, writing essays, writing stories, using it as a backdrop for a storyboard, right? And once we plug all of these things into it, then digital ownership becomes something real, right? I'm not really sure if we had it right the first time. And I say this because I think a lot of people got excited about the origin of NFTs because they could, prove ownership of their own stuff, or they could prove ownership of something that they bought. But what if it's different? What if it's a creative license that becomes your ownership, right? Like how many creators have gotten screwed by corporations who have taken their things and had the money to be able to patent it, right? Now, when you're using things like AI and you're, a creator, that changes the whole dynamic for creative ownership, right?
Yeah, honestly, dude,
and blocks it on the chain.
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't like. I think on-chain stuff and this comes from when Russell Corse invited us in New York to sit down with the Singularity.net people, who are amazing. They're talking about this thing where you could take the entire work product that I do at some paper pusher sort of information economy kind of job, right? You could take all of my emails, all of my input output for a few years, and basically make a chatbot that would be able to do that. Now, like looking at GPT, like that's going to be fucking easy to do, right? But what they were saying was that because everyone kind of worries about the end of work or whatever, what they were trying to say is like whoever gives up all their information, that person would then get a cut of all the times that it was used. Here's the problem, right? And they were saying they were coaching it as training. Like that thing's going to train the next human. No, it's not. It's going to replace the next 100,000 humans, right? So that one person might get paid, but then it's done, and it'll be done forever, and it'll never come back, right? So thinking about that, watching what's been going on with Midjourney, what's going on with Stable Diffusion. I think it was one of the Stable Diffusion iterations that said artists, like active artists now could like opt out, which I love. Like that was very nice of them to do. But another project could come along and just say no, because the way that these things are getting created is not copying. It's just not. It's starting with something completely and totally random and being influenced by it, I would argue, in exactly the same way that human beings are influenced by it. And it's going to feel super weird about it. And, that like there's a lot more to discuss in that. But there's going to be so much incentive to get all of this stuff out there that I think copyright as we know it is dead. Like the way I'm thinking about it, I want people to have, any art that I put out, if you own the NFT, you own the rights. Because I'm only going to sell one of them now, right? And how you want to distribute it, great. It's going to be on me to build a community, to build value, to build, ways, to kind of monetize or whatever. But yeah, thinking in terms of like a lawyer going after something in the future that is intellectual property of mine to get money, right? Which is what copyright laws really are, right? And if you don't use copyright laws, they don't exist, right? If they're not enforced, they don't exist, which I think is often the case. I honestly think copyright is dead. I think, and it's going to take a while, right? Like this is not like next week or maybe even in the next 2 years, but I don't think it survives what's coming. I really don't. And so then we have to figure out like, how do we live in that paradigm? And I'm excited to kind of explore what that's going to mean.
Well, and I think that speaks to my point across the board as well, right? Like I think a lot of these things that have messed our society up are essentially dead. Once we plug ourselves into the community spirit and the community ideology that rewards creators, rewards people who are building things, rewards people who are using technologies to create things of value, as opposed to extracting value from things that other people are creating. And so whether you like it or not, we live in a world right now where the majority of businesses extract value. That's
this is what I'm concerned,
right? Yeah. It's extracting value. So
I'm concerned about this.
Blockchain and NFTs and cryptocurrency is the fact that we can potentially shift that paradigm to creating value as opposed to having to buy into this company paradigm or company principle of value extraction
right.
for personal.
Here's where the companies are going to get that again. I was talking to a guy on Facebook, great artist, really really good at digital art with AI. Like he's really really awesome, right? And he's like, yeah, we got to cut out the middleman. We got to cut him in the middleman. Okay, well, like, great, right? How?
Right.
If you don't learn how to market, right? If you don't learn how to and when you were saying, like, I really clued into like creating things of value. What the fuck does that mean? TC asked me that, right? And like, I'm like, I don't know, right? Like, we're making it up, right? Because like when everyone has this artistic superpower, and everyone is going to have this artistic superpower, everyone, there's no moat, right? Like I'm playing around with it. I think, curating is interesting because you can make garbage at a tremendous rate. You can make beautiful garbage at a tremendous rate, right? Having, a cohesive story, being able to create community around it. Like I think there's ways to create value around it, but the amount of signal to noise ratio is going to get fucking absurd. And not just in art. This is going to be in writing. This is going to be in music really, really quickly, right? Like one of the other teams at singularity.net, we're talking about how, they could take every single piece of music I've ever done, and I have like literally thousands of hours online, and create a bot that could play any song or write new songs exactly how I would sound, right? Which makes sense. It's literally what is going on with the writing. It's what's going on with the art. It's just doing that averaging out whiz bang shit, and making that shit work, right? So like, and you'll be able to do that with any artist. Like that's coming. Everybody who has any creative impulse at all is going to be able to create. So how do you rise above the noise then to create that value? Because just the act of creating doesn't fucking matter. Everyone's going to be doing it. Right. So when we say creative things of value, we mean like, how do you make it so that somebody else wants to buy it?
Right.
And that's not a foregone conclusion, but companies will hire marketers that do that, and they'll take all the money because frankly, like they're like, and that's like record companies too, right? Like creators don't want to do it. This guy I was talking to on Facebook, great guy, but he's like, oh, I just don't want to do that because I don't have that kind of brain. Well, you're fucked then. Quit talking about middlemen. You need them.
But I think the defining difference here is that, and I could be wrong. I mean, they're gonna figure out a way to token gate it for sure. But I think that
we can learn it. Like it's a learnable skill.
And the defining interest here is that a lot of it is open source, right? You don't have to pay money to get your record or your music in front of a big label. You don't have to, you can market it yourself, which wasn't always the case,
right.
Before the internet, before Web3, or what's going to be Web3. So I think that's the difference, right? Like you had that excuse before, and I do honestly, in some ways, believe that it was just an excuse. But you had that excuse before to be able to say, "Oh, I mean, this whole system's a monopoly, and
the gatekeepers,
and I can't get myself in there." Right now, I think with what's coming, you no longer have that excuse.
I totally, completely. I mean, NFTs are breaking a hole in that wall anyway, right? And so I think I think you're right. And really, like, go on to, and it's been down for me the last couple of days. It's driving me nuts. But if you went and talk to GPT now, GPT-3 and 4 is coming out, say like write me like a marketing tweet for this for this NFT and just describe it basically, and it fucking nails it. Like it's much better than the copy that I would write, right? And again, not my specialty. But if you say, hey, listen, teach me how to market an NFT or a song, right? Like it'll do it. Like it's really good at it, and it's not always right, but it's almost always right, which is nuts. Just don't ask any math questions yet, because it sucks at those. Oh, by the way, before I forget, Chris Tuttle and I started having a conversation off air. She's like much deeper into the AI thing than even I am, and I am, of course, utterly obsessed. So I think we're going to do an entire show focusing on that, kind of talking about the tools that we're using. She's going to get into the tech and how it works, because she understands it a lot better than I do. So that'll probably be when I get back, but it's going to be fun.
Nice. Yeah. And I mean, I think, I'm just looking at it now. I mean, somebody up earlier in the comments, Steve, I think it was Steve, said something about, I think the bottom is in. I mean, maybe Binance fails. We don't know.
I honestly, I would bet a large sum of money that Binance isn't going to fail.
No, I don't think
this isn't their first rodeo, right? Like I think they've they've been keeping responsible reserves. Now, I could for sure be wrong. That's just a guess. But yeah, no, I think the bottom's in too. Like at least this quarter, like we're gonna look back at Q1 and be like, okay, the bottom happened in Q1.
I don't think that anyone really saw the whole FTX failure coming. I mean, until it really, happened,
and
right?
How
I mean,
spectacular a failure! Oh my god,
the Terra thing. I mean, love him or hate him, as how do I say this in a nice way? As diverse as he's become, even Dan Larimer called, Dan Larimer's been on a roll with some pretty interesting tweets. It's almost like I don't know, a religious AI took over his well-being. But let's just leave it there. There was some weird stuff that's been going out there. There's some weird stuff that's been happening with Eden. There's some weird stuff that's been happening with EOS. I mean, the new just as a weird kind of segue update, the new IBC multisig was just recently signed, I think 1 or 2 days ago, which incorporates a lot of what Antelope.io is doing, the IBC that's being built out by the UX network. There's a lot of really cool things happening in the EOS ecosystem. I mean, Dan's still on his mission to improve the world with things that he builds. Whether you love it or whether you hate it, one thing that he did get right in the last year was he kind of called the failure of the Terra blockchain, right? And nobody listened to him, right? Because
right.
Because he's an idiot that created an ICO that was big that never did anything. Obviously, that's not me saying that. I think what he created with EOS.io and what became of Antelope.io and what the community pulled together to sacrifice in terms of what they were building on this quote unquote dead chain has been amazing, and I think it's going to really pay off. With people like the EOS Network Foundation and some amazing developers that are friends of ours as well, that we've had on the show, that we've worked together, like even not part of the EF, like some Boyd or Jenner EOS or some of these other projects that we're looking at. But he called it and nobody listened. But nobody called the FTX thing, right? Like that
seemed like it was so legit that it and tied into like. And now, granted, I was thinking like it tied into all these sort of like respectable, trading institutions or whatever, which actually, should have made us guess the other way. But just like how, well, I mean, I don't know if I want to go there because it's been such a positive year. I was screaming from the rooftops when Uplift first started making money that we need to be socking this away for the peak and selling it and getting ready for the bear market, right? I wasn't under control of that. Like the deal that we originally said, I owned 3% of the company. That's all I could do, right? Is be noisy. Of course, they didn't listen to that, and they went completely the other direction, frankly, right? They went the FTX direction, to the just completely and totally wasting all the money and then lying about it, and basically trying to chop us up for parts. And so there's something there, right? Like you get into that space where, oh my God, like the money's just going to keep coming in, forever. And so like, we're just going to buy an office for $18 trillion a month. And like, oh, why don't we just take all these inputs and put it into our own trading firm, which for a minute can make you look like a genius. Because like, how many times have we said this? In a bull market, you throw a dart at the market, you look like a genius, right? And that's all Alameda was doing, right? Only they're doing a fucking leverage. And then, when you pop the balloon, if you don't have the reserves, you're dead, right?
Well, they're doing it with other people's funds, right?
Which is insane, right? Like this, like now, granted, like do the same legal rules apply? And I don't think that they do, right? For a crypto trading firm, because like, I mean, what wasn't the one that just came out? I can't remember the name of it, but they basically said like and it was a legal ruling. And please, somebody tell me if I'm wrong about this, because I just remember the headline and like a blurb or whatever. But basically, it was like, the second that you put your money on an exchange, you give up all rights to it. Like the whole like it's as if it was encoded into law, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, which means that what FTX did wouldn't be illegal at all.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, wrong, stupid, and bad business, but maybe not illegal, which is crazy.
There's interesting things, right? Like one of the reasons I do respect Binance is because, I mean, as best as they potentially can, I think that they're open and they're transparent, and they set up, that whole Sifu fund, right? So if their exchange gets hacked, the investors can have some money back. It's interesting to see that we got on a little bit of rant here, but I like this. It's interesting to see that the fallout.
It's been too long. The rants were all just building up.
Right. And then it's interesting to see, because if you paid attention to what happened in Japan, one of the corporations or the companies that FTX kind of owned was Liquid. And the Liquid exchange actually had essentially a built-in Seifu fund. So anyone who had their FTX tokens on Liquid, if I'm reading this correctly, will actually get some of that money back, which is interesting because they're one of the few, right? And so you're looking at things like the SEC, which is notoriously slow, but there are benefits to living in the States when you have regulatory environments that are state by state and they don't have to go through the national level, right? You're looking at people like the ASIC in Australia that are setting up and starting to, prosecute people for things that they've done, 2 or 3 years in hindsight, which I personally believe is good. And don't get me wrong here. I think open transparency, non-regulated blockchain is the way to go. But the minute that you have people coming into the network for the simple reason to extract value by skirting regulations that they couldn't do in the real world, these people deserve to go to prison. I'm sorry. I'm working on putting some people in prison right now. Like, this is fucked. You can't come in and promise to be decentralized and then not be. You can't come in and say that we're open and transparent and then open backdoor code so that you can do whatever the hell you want. I don't care whether you believe, and you and I might even disagree on this, I don't care whether you believe in a free world, a decentralized economy, but you're lying to people who are buying into your system. That is illegal. It should be illegal. And
that's the thing. I don't think it's illegal at all. But I think that you're right. I mean, what's the first thing we did when we turned into a DAO? Our books are fucking open.
Right. Yeah.
We literally publish them. Right.
And so if you're a registered financial entity using blockchain to skirt regulations, then I'm all for the SEC or the ASIC coming in and saying, look, just because you're a blockchain doesn't mean you get to skirt financial regulations.
So here's the issue.
That you're not allowed to do in the real world, then you should go to jail. Now,
here's the issue.
Close that back, just a sec. Close that back door in FTX. Close it, and it's fine. I have no problem with anything that FTX did except for that fucking back door. Yeah. Once you open that back door and you start playing around with other people,
that's like legitimately lying.
That you're transparent and honest, then you deserve to go to jail. I'm sorry, but like, I'm in this space for the investors. I'm in this space for the progress. I'm in this space for the technology. And Corey, you know very well that, having seen my portfolio, you can attest that is 100% true. Most of the people who say it will be bullshit, right? Like, I could say the same thing about you, right? Like most.
Me too. Now we're starting from scratch and dreams again, which is oddly liberating. Yeah, the only thing that my biggest worry about, like, when people either legitimately, like you're describing, get screwed over, or they just made a bad trade and want to blame somebody, which is 90% of the crying in crypto. Yeah. If you cry for the SEC, just understand that they might do that rule that you're talking about, but then they'll apply every single one of the rules. And then anybody who doesn't have $250,000 liquid will never be able to touch an NFT or crypto again.
Yeah, I'm not sure about.
That's the thing. Like, if we gave it to the SEC and if we give them a little bit, they're going to try and take it all. That's what they're going to do.
I'm not sure if that's actually possible. I think
you might be right. Like, if that might, like, the ship might have sailed on that. That's my biggest worry, though, right? Like, if we give the SEC reign to come in and do anything, which again, it seems, especially in the FTX, like, crazy, like, who else is going to do that, right? Like, I get that. I really do. But if and when we, bring them into this space, they will go for the gusto and they'll try to protect all the dummy investors who cry at them all the time by just taking away their ability to do it.
Yeah, I'm not interested in protecting dummy investors. I'm interested in prosecuting bad actors.
Amen. Right. So, but like, how? Right. Like, going to the SEC is like going to a giant monster who will eat bad actors and everyone else.
Yeah, I might be okay with that, because that's the only way that's the only way that we progress, right?
Maybe I just like the other way is for people to learn that if you have your shit on an exchange, you're stupid.
Two different things, though. Having your shit on an exchange and then finding out that the exchange has a backdoor. So on the exchange can do whatever they want.
Dude, not your keys, not your crypto, period. caveat emptor.
Yeah.
How many times do we have to tell people this?
Yeah,
It's true. If you understood that, you wouldn't have been screwed over. Done.
Well, and see here, this is where I think is the value of cryptocurrency right here. If this works, right? How to expose the bad actors. I mean, blockchain and cryptocurrency and transparency is designed so that we don't need people like the SEC to expose bad actors. It should be there and it should be open. And if it's not there and if not open, then as far as I'm concerned, these people.
So this should go back to the. I sound like such a libertarian lunatic. This is so unlike me. But like going down the rabbit hole of what crypto means, I think, and I'm more than open to being proven wrong about this, right? The idea is if we really want to take responsibility for our own stuff and be our own market, which was kind of like part of the ethos and spirit of the whole idea, right? Then as we onboard, we need to educate. There's a lot of people, like Luke Stokes is my favorite example of that, right? There's a bunch of other people that do the same thing and they're awesome at it. And we would be the ones deciding, okay, who is the exchange that is the most open, has the best reputation, yada 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 yada. We get to make that choice on where we're going to do our, say, active trading or whatever, right? And we've seen people lose a bunch of stuff before this, and so we know that like the only real way to keep your crypto is if it's in a cold wallet. That's it, right? The bad actors, then we're the ones who can see the FTXs coming or whatever. Now, then this is why the SEC exists, and maybe why like human beings aren't responsible enough to handle their own shit. Like that's kind of what we're saying, right? People, and I say it meanly sometimes, too judgmentally. People are living their lives. They're working 3 jobs. They just want to make something better for themselves. They don't have the asinine amount of time we do to research all this stuff or whatever, right? So like you're just gonna, like, your friend tells you about FTX, you jump in, or Luna and you jump in or whatever. And so like I guess having some ability to protect those people as they come in, I mean, it would make expansion of the field a lot bigger. But I think I'm just scared of what we lose if we invite the monster, the SEC, in to do.
I mean, I lost some money on Terra, and I know a lot of people who lost a lot more than me, like life savings wise. And I'm sorry about that. But in that sense, I don't think that you bought into an idea. Sorry, you bought into an idea, myself included, that you didn't really understand the technical aspects of it. And somebody else understood it better enough to be able to make a shit ton of money by taking it down, right? That's free market. That's capitalism.
Yeah, if it can be destroyed, it should be destroyed.
And going back to
that, I kind of believe.
Right? And going back to what you were saying on the whole copywriting thing, laws and stuff like that, right? We're going to get to a point where blockchain and crypto enable open, transparent systems whereby there will not be any need for copywriting laws, right? Just because you're a capitalist
or they just won't be able to be enforced, right? Yeah.
You're a capitalist country or a capitalist economy by name doesn't actually mean that you're capitalist, right? And so that's where I think the power of blockchain and crypto is, right? If we get this right as an industry, if we bake this in, especially with DPoS, right, where we have governance, where we have community members that are very highly skilled in what they bring to the blockchain and crypto space, and it's open and it's transparent. If we get this right, there's no need for entities or companies like the SEC ever again, right? Actually, if we get this right, what the SEC and the ASIC and other crypto regulatory businesses are doing will be defunct, because that will take power from what's happening. A really good example was what was it, the Quadriga exchange in Canada that went
that went dark for years because the guy died.
The guy died in India on vacation, and those funds are just being moved. Now, in this case, we don't have Do Kwon going on and saying, "No, it wasn't me. I didn't touch those funds." Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I have no idea.
We don't. It could be his estate legally or something. We don't.
Now we've got 5 years later the funds being moved, and the only way that the funds can be moved, according to their narrative, was the fact that he had the keys, right? And so this is what I'm talking about. These things are the things that the SEC should be, concerned with, not the things that are the regular people trying.
If you and I and Lisa and TC and everybody here, if we could decide what the SEC's purview was going to be, I'd be all for it. right? There is some like if we knew for a fact that the regulations were going to be adapted to this new paradigm in a very smart and responsible way, I'd be for it. But they won't. They don't understand this.
They have to be, and
Well,
they
here's
will
the thing. Like, if they do it, we're not going to like it. Like, I guarantee you we're not going to like it. We're going to give up way more than we could ever want. Now,
that's why I'm not in the States, by the way, because I don't like
that's yeah, that's smart. I guess, yeah, I think I could always vote with my feet at some point, right? Like, yeah, I think I'll move to Puerto Rico or whatever.
No,
that's always possible. I was just thinking too, like,
everything that they're going to do is right. I agree, but I think that's where we get to Main Street. We need to have some regulation.
Maybe that could be it, right?
So that the bad actors can't fuck people over. Right, like,
well, then they will anyway.
What's the story
right.
that they say, right?
Like,
in order
the credible fear?
In order to define the narrative, you have to be a part of it. Right now, we're not a part of the narrative because there's too many people that are afraid that this Ponzi scheme, right? Like, I've got people coming up to me, like family members coming up to me and asking me if Terra was a Ponzi scheme, right? And because it's Bitcoin, so if Terra's a Ponzi scheme, Bitcoin must be a Ponzi scheme. And I'm scratching my head thinking, I don't think it is, but it's really hard for me to argue that it's not.
So the only possible answer to that, because I've done a lot of thinking on this. There is nothing that happened with Terra that doesn't happen on Wall Street every day.
Right, exactly.
There are smarter people, frankly, on Wall Street that know how to protect from it because it is a well-known kind of attack, right?
I mean, it's possible that it was possible that it was orchestrated by Wall Street,
right? Like that, it's a move that in those markets they do all the time. And really, like, the crypto markets, volume-wise, we think of them as big, and they kind of are, but to Wall Street money, they're not, right? So, like, they don't make the weather they don't suffer the weather they create it. Even with on Wall Street. So that's something that I think it just happens, right? So if you're going to have a market with stocks or with crypto or with anything where people can buy and sell it, you can manipulate the price. That's just a fact, right? And so that if you want to do that, you can do it. Now, if you want to protect from that, you can do that too, by like not selling all your stuff for Bitcoin like an idiot. Yeah. So anyway,
I mean, again, completely different situations, completely different things, right? Like, if you get caught for insider trading on Wall Street, you go to jail, right?
Yeah, here's the thing: look how the way that insider trading laws are enforced. Like, basically, they aren't.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
They'll go after a few high-profile people and make you think that's a law. It's not, right? Like, people are doing basically insider trading shit all the time, right?
Yeah.
And none of that applies to crypto in any way, shape, or form because these things are not securities. And for the love of God, we do not want them to be. We don't want them to be securities. The second they're securities, do you have $250,000 liquid right now?
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't either, right? And like nowhere even close. And so that means that we could not buy any of these things at all. That's what they'll do.
I think there's a difference between trying to pretend that every cryptocurrency is a security and prosecuting people who are creating illegal securities to skirt regulations. I think that's a really big defining factor in my mind. I think that's
possible too, right? Like, again, like if we were writing the securities law, we could probably make some very smart distinctions.
This 1956 Howey test is ridiculous, right?
Right. It's like it's ludicrous, right? But yeah, I mean, like everything EOS did. Like, if that's not a security, nothing is. Anyway.
Like, I mean, you've got EOS who basically are coming out and stating that they're not a security. Block one back in the day.
Well, and really, like,
are they or aren't they? Right? Is Bitcoin a security?
Right. Like,
Ethereum a security? They're not. But those are the only ones that have been, kind of.
With that, like, no Bitcoin company ever sold Bitcoin.
Right.
Right. Like, that's never happened. One of the reasons why we've never sold, Upliftium, even though it's in game and goes to an NFT, like, we've never sold it. We never will.
Right. And so but that's what I'm saying, right? If you're creating a token this is weird, right? Because if you're creating a token to be able to print your own money, then you should be classified as a security. If you're creating a token, maybe unpopular thing here, right? But if you're creating a token to be able to amplify community or amplify earning power or amplify some element within some project or some game or some collectible that has an ulterior motive other than just making the founders rich. I mean, because we're incredibly rich right now, right, Corey? So
love, Jimmy, we are rich in love.
So if you're doing this is what I'm trying to get at, right? Like, I want to see the crypto space. It's hard for me because there's a fine line here, but I want to see the crypto space succeed on the merit of people wanting to learn and do better, right? Like, I've said this to you hundreds, potentially thousands of times. If the human race wasn't so dumb and indebted to their own idea of how things should be, and their motives were not trying to compete in a world that they can't compete with because it's run by a few people who actually control the state of that world, and it was focused on creating a better tomorrow, then we would be in space. We would be in Star Wars. We would be flying around. We would have had, passengers to the moon.
Dude, what'd you do? The second there was any challenge, you want the SEC to come help.
Right. So
and honestly, like, that's the problem. And you're one of the smartest people I know and well positioned to understand this as good as anyone.
I don't want the SEC to come and help. I want the SEC to do their job, right? If I have my money in a bank and the bank does illegal shit, then I think the bank should be shut down, right?
Yeah. But again, like, this is the thing. Like, if you follow what the SEC actually does, the number of times that it, goes after people that we would appreciate and say thank you for every one of those, there might be 2 or 3 that were like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I think we're using the SEC because it's familiar to everybody. But if you look at different regulatory agencies from different countries around the world, then there's better ones and there's worse ones.
Okay, that I can see that possibility. Right. Just, I mean, I can't imagine doing much worse than the SEC, but I'm sure it's possible. I can't imagine doing much better, and I'm sure a lot of countries are.
Like, so Japan has a pretty good regulatory they've got kind of a pretty good regulatory infrastructure, and it gets broken all the time, and people go to jail all the time, and people get away with shit all the time. But we're not sitting in a place where a good example would be, I think it was the early 90s when the Australian banks when the Argentinian banks all went bankrupt and everybody lost their money, right? And I'm not saying that they should get that money back, but that's a regulated industry. And, banking is a regulated industry. And I think if we're going to get to the point, see, again, it's a fine line because it's not necessarily about what I believe, but it's also about how do we get more people to pay attention to this industry, right? Right now, we've got 1% of the world that's interested in Bitcoin. And of that 1%, what fraction of the 0.00001% is interested in all of this other stuff, right? Now, there's some really cool use cases to crypto and blockchain. And you and I went through various projects, multiple interviews where we've seen all these people, right? Land rights. In land rights in Africa, right? What happens when there's a military coup and they destroy all the government paperwork buildings, and now all of a sudden, all these other people own your land and not you, not your family that has been there for, thousands of years. There's something not right with that, and blockchain and crypto has the power to save that kind of aspect, right? It has the power to put that on chain so that you have a legal right to get your shit back, right? And this is where I'm not necessarily interested in what the SEC can do. I don't care if it's 2 trailer park girls that are going around the outside. I don't give a shit as long as there's some regulatory body that is empowered enough to be able to stop bad actors in this space so that the people who are actually building real life shit can get, that stuff built without having to worry about explaining to their investors why they're safe. Now, EOS, I think, is a really good example. EOS, they're not regulated by the SEC so far. That's what we know. They're not. But they're a great example, right? EOS has the ability to do something that a lot of blockchain people don't like. EOS has the ability to get, 15 out of 21 block producer signatures to be able to halt a transaction on a blockchain, right? This is great when you're looking at things like DeFi. This is great when you're looking at things like, funds being stolen due to hacks, right? Or not, I love it because Americans, they're not really big fans of negotiating with terrorists, but this is great. This is a great opportunity for blockchain to shine, right?
Mhm.
Because it's on chain, it's open governance, and it's out there in the open. Now, the difference between this and what's happening on Wall Street is you can't sit as a fly on the wall and watch these people do what they're doing. The possibility of having,
I mean, dude, blockchain voting would be the same thing, right? That's like the trust that people have in the system is it not only is it broken, but it's very easily manipulated. The people that refuse to have any, it's very easy to tell them that an election was stolen when if you want to be as dumb as a box of fucking hammers, you could just believe that, right? Every time.
Yeah.
Any evidence? No. Fuck you. We don't need evidence. You're stupid, right? But it'll work, and it works because there's no way to actually check, right? If we were doing blockchain voting, that line of attack on democracy would be dead because you could go check your own vote.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I want as a regulatory industry. I want a regulatory industry that's on chain. I don't want a regulatory industry that decides what they're going to do about on chain shit off chain in a back room. I want that regulation on chain. I want that, like, maybe obviously it will probably have to be way better organized and less futile and less what's it called when you get angry at somebody else for doing something that you don't do, shallow than what's happening with US governance at times, right? Like, we've still got petty infighting with crazy things that are happening with Edon EOS and Helios and all this other stuff. I mean, I'm a big fan of the new Antelope IO infrastructure that's happening with the multiple chains and the IBC and the things for DeFi and the future of this, right? I think we've got a long way to go with governance.
Yeah.
We're
I think they're taking the right steps, though, right?
Governance in Uplift, I think. Everything that we've done has been on chain. Everything that we've done has been out there and open and transparent. And I think, like, in that sense, I hope that we're building something that can be emulated on a much grander scale. But I mean, if we don't get to that point, then we're not going to see the world commit. Because, like, at least as bad as this sounds, there is some sort of legal clarity around real world businesses that doesn't exist in the crypto market. And if I'm gonna convince my mom and my dad to buy an NFT, that's not
or
so
even
bad. But if I'm gonna convince them to replace their bank account with DeFi, I mean, it's not gonna happen, right? Like, it's not. So anyway, sorry, that's my rant for the day. Welcome to Frenzied Friday Rant Catch-Up with
Ranty time.
There's a new as a segue to that, there's a new post that you put on where we hide all the alpha.com. I think I published another one, which was one of our events. But if you go over there, for people who might not know, I think most people who are in here now probably know, but 128 days, 128 weeks.
128 days sounds easy now.
127 left.
126 tomorrow. I guess. Yeah, tomorrow is the end of week 2, which is crazy.
I like it. Yeah, I mean that's well, I mean that's more than 2 years.
Yeah, it gets us past where the next peak is going to be.
Right.
Yep.
So,
a little stoked about it.
And then there was a if you're paying attention to what's happening. If you don't know what's going on, because I've grappled with this with a couple people before as well. The Uplift world, it was built originally on Minecraft because that was a medium that was really easy to be able to plug into, and that was something that some people on our team were interested in. It's not the easiest thing, but I did it the other day. I walked somebody through it the other day, and it's actually really easy. I mean, it's probably easier in a way than registering for a Minecraft account to get into Minetest. Right? You just go in.
Oh, it's way easier, right?
You plug it into the server. The only thing that doesn't really exist is there's not the documentation, that exists for Minetest as a actual entity as there is for Minecraft, right? I'm not talking Uplift. I'm talking about, the community documentation, which I kind of would like to change. So if any of you are out there and you're playing around with what's happening in Minetest and you have, documentation that you want to publish, let us know, because it helps us out and it helps the Minetest community out as well. So I would love to put that in, right? But one of the cool things about Minetest is, you guys had the demo the other day, and I think you posted it in the DAO discussion channel, I believe, in the Discord, that anyone can go and they can look at it. And one of the cool things is, like, it's a whole new way to craft. It's a whole new way to experience the game. So I think a lot of people don't understand this. This isn't just like a generic version of Minecraft. What this is this is a codable, writable version of Minecraft where what we want can be created, right? And so hats off to Gary. Hats off to, I think, Mike, possibly. Who else am I missing? There's a pretty strong.
Gary, he's got a whole team of people now working on stuff, and it really, like, from battle robots to totally new crafting to uplifting being baked into the whole system.
Right.
So I really am honestly grateful for it. And again, like, Minecraft's not going anywhere. We can't do images in Minetest yet, and we don't know when we're going to be able to. So, like, I'm building all of my galleries on the Minecraft side for the art project. It's still going to be there and going strong and whatever. But yeah, I think it just our world has definitely expanded. And I think we're going to be starting to finally release stuff pretty soon. Well, and then Dennis for this frickin' front end redo. We're going to have a whole bunch of really cool infrastructure to tap into not only what we're releasing with Minetest, but like future releases. They're both, Gary and Dennis, are designing all this stuff for what comes after all the time, right? Because we're going to be stair stepping the technology ladder as it happens, because that's going to start happening faster and faster all the time. But one of the things I'm most excited about for the new website is frickin' gratitude points. There's going to be like an embedded daily gratitude practice on our website that'll get you gratitude points, and the rewards committee will be able to assign little presents or maybe uplifting or other stuff for successfully meeting daily challenges for a month or something, right? It's going to be cool.
Well,
I'm going to use that for sure.
Although I've had a ton of help, with some of the content and the photos. Devona 59's been taking tons of photos of the events, and then we've just been publishing them on the site. One of the things that I do that might piss people off is I click a little button that when you click on a link, it takes you to a new window. This really annoys me, to be honest, but I do it for a reason. I do it because I don't want people to leave and have to come back. But I'm excited, and we never really got this far in Minecraft. It was a little bit of a tech hurdle that we didn't quite get figured out, but I'm pretty confident that it will be figured out probably easier and sooner in the Minetest realm. But, we never actually sold any NFTs in Minecraft. That never existed, right? The possibility to be able to do that in Minetest without having to open a new window and going to places like Atomic.
Yeah. We're gonna all the Web3 all the time, baby. Yeah, we're gonna bake it into the app, and exactly the way we very judiciously, intelligently did not do with Minecraft. We're gonna do all that shit with Minetest.
But you can still go in and look at. You can still go in and look at some art. There's some great galleries there.
And build well. And when we do the
right?
Wall, right? Yeah, and like honestly, like the one-of-one NFTs, I think is gonna make the Minecraft side really kick up, because like what I want to be able to do is make a gallery, make like a 5-second video walkthrough, and that's going to be a gift that's on the one-of-one NFT for that build, right? And that's going to be something that you'll be able to update whenever you want. It's going to cost some some wax, just because it's going to be manual at first and maybe forever, but it's going to be something that I think is going to, ramp all that stuff up. Like, it's not just that it exists. It's going to be, we're going to be making, individualized land NFTs that are going to be art in their own right. Like, they're going to be cultural touch points in their own right. And then if you own those things, you can turn them in merch with top merch, because that's just going to be fun.
And I mean, I do sympathize with the artists and creators everywhere. And I'm sorry, I'm going to put giant foot in mouth right now. But I was in Spain a number of years ago, and I came across these massive paintings, and they were absolutely beautiful. They were almost like a Jamaican color palette, and they were two faces, but the same face. One was masculine and one was feminine. And I took photos on my camera and I printed them out and I hung them on my bedroom wall because I love them. And now I guess if I was American and the SEC wanted to come and arrest me for having photos of somebody else's artwork that I didn't pay for on the walls, then oh wait, that wouldn't be a possibility. I'm sorry. So you're telling me that just because people put pictures up in the Uplift, they're not connected to NFTs? Oh, right. Okay, sure. Perfect, right? There's no selling going on within the metaverse, right? So like you said, we were never in bad waters with the terms of service of what Microsoft did. We didn't really utilize NFTs in the way that they came out and said, oh, we don't want people to use NFTs this way. We never actually did that. There were really no NFTs for sale in the world, right? So I think it's quite interesting to see that, and then that the worlds are still there, and there's still people that are in there playing around with it, and there's still definitely value to that, right? So I just want to shout it out there. If you have created a build, or if you have created an art gallery, we haven't featured it on Where We Hide All the Uplift. Where We Hide All the Uplift, Where We Hide All the Alpha. Get in touch, because I want to put those up there, right? I think encoding this beyond the metaverse is good too, right? And I mean, we're probably going to get to a point at some time where you can just go in and wander around the metaverse, and everything will be done inside of the world, right? You won't have to click that little box to open a new window to do new things, right? But I think we have the potential and the possibility to do a lot of these things right from within the world, right? I mean, maybe a gumball machine that you can pull robot parts out with, and build your own NFT right there on the side of the studio, and then play with it, and then solidify it. There's a tons of possibilities. So I would also encourage, if you have good ideas, to keep going into the DAO discussion channel or any of these other channels in our Discord, and throw them out there, right? Because we're in that phase where we get to build and shape the future that we want. We get to build and shape the future of the ideas that people have had. And I would say probably a good 90% of the people that are working so hard on the Uplift World Metaverse version 2.0 weren't necessarily here for version 1.0, right? It's a whole new crew of people. It's a whole new, diehard fan base, event base. And so hats off to all of you who are doing that. I mean, many of who have contributed to the second version more than myself even. So yeah, I just think it's really exciting. And if you want to be a part of shaping it and be there, you're more than welcome, I think. Open invitation, open arms, with a big kiss from Jimmy D.
Okay. I mean, as long as there's a big kiss from Jimmy D, I'm in.
What else you got, Corey? What else are we missing, other than the random, rants of? You just gotta stare into the microphone with you're gonna breathe heavily into the microphone, the volume off.
Sorry, I lost my microphone there for a minute. Yeah, no, nothing really. Just really good to hang out with everybody who popped in, and with you. And I gotta go do super important stuff, like taking all of our dog bed stuff to the cleaners. It's fucking exciting.
Well, I mean, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I might just get a dog bed for myself, because they seem cheaper than futons over here in this crazy North American continent.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed.
So yeah, I guess we'll probably try to pop in next week sometime. And
I am gone Sunday to Sunday, so grab somebody from the team and do that.
Okay, and I'll be doing some other interviews on some other channels as I do.
Cool.
When I'm around. I do apologize. I've been a little bit absent recently. I'm back in the teaching world doing some really interesting things with students who don't want to learn, which is really fun, because I think, again, that's where we plug a lot of this technology in, to give people incentives, as opposed to just, oh yeah, you study here and you can get a job. And now we create jobs for ourselves. So I'm excited about that.
That's the goal, man.
Go check out some of the posts over on Where We Hide All the Alpha. If you got a little bit of wax kicking around, 128 weeks. There's a few still left on the market. You create a new one every day.
Yeah, every day. There's a bunch, actually.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
The first 3 days, I think, sold out, right?
They did.
Which is nice.
Yeah, so there's I guess 10 or 11 on the market, something like that. It's probably 10. It's day 13. I mean, yeah, some of them are good. The ones coming out while I'm gone are some of my favorites that I have ever created. And it's actually going to be all about what I'm doing and where I'm going. And it's pretty crazy shit.
Nice. And yeah, I think it'd be fun to definitely do some exploration. So I'll be looking forward to you and Cottrell getting on this channel in the next week or two, couple weeks maybe, and doing some AI stuff. So definitely keep us posted about that.
Yeah, and just like the implications of it are, I mean, that's what freaks me out in a good way, frankly, the most. But she's got such a good knowledge about how the technology actually works, and I think it's really important for people to understand. How the images go from random pixels and random words to getting fed amazingly large amounts of data, and then it just guesses every word. Like, what does the next word look like? What should it look like? And it does a massive statistical analysis. But what it creates works, which is crazy pants. Yeah, Wilbur, thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, doing ayahuasca for a week and being out in the what's going to be cold down here in Florida. And really, like, the silence thing freaks me out more than anything. Like, there's a vow of silence starting Sunday at like 3 that goes for a week.
Yeah,
like,
if you
I'm
ever
gonna be stuck in my own head for a week.
Right, if you ever want to see Jimmy really lose the plot, like, get him to be quiet for a week.
I bet I could see it. Anyway, I'm gonna learn a lot, and I'm gonna come back, ready to grind like crazy. Because again, like, we're back at that point now. Every bit of effort that we put in right now is worth 100 times what it's going to be worth in the end of 2024, 2025. Literally 100x. Every time you put your nose to the grindstone in whatever you're doing in Web3, even if it's just learning, it's worth 100 times what it's going to be worth in 2.5 years. So, if you plan on doing anything with Web3, now's the time to like really get moving.
You heard it here first.
Cool.